Good news, everyone!
It's Jake Ciely.
And there's a surprise in your cereal box. I'm great! Everybody else sucks! Let's get dangerous.
Yes, sir, random kid I just met.
It's time to check the list.
Oh, wait, you're serious? Let me laugh even harder.
You know what? You just made the list!
Hooray! People are paying attention to me.
It's all in football.
Sure, we talk about it all the time.
Really?
No, burn.
What is up, you ducks? It is time to get dangerous for week 2 rankings, game previews, all and more with Chris Meaney on FTN Fantasy. It is all in football. And as a reminder, all in, get you 20% off over at FTN and over the Athletic. There's something going on. There's always some type of deal.
Always.
You can, I don't know if you waited this long. Surprised, 100 new subscribers, and I'll be like, oh wow, like whatever for the waiver column this week. But I'm surprised people waited this long to like jump in on week 2. But congratulations if you're here. Real quick before we get into ranks, Meaney, 2 quick things actually. Reminder: subscribe, rate, review, please, on the Apple Podcast, as we're coming back. We're getting close, but we're still trying to recover from the podcast nukeability, or whatever you want to call it. The second part is we don't usually talk waivers on this. There's not waivers I want to talk about. We covered it with Lauren yesterday because I puked on Monday. So yesterday was Puka Nacua day. So the question I have for you is, like, a lot of people overreact and drop. And I've talked about this last year. Our good friend Jeff Ratcliffe has. You have. But I just want to get your opinion on one specific player. We always sit here and say, last year you did not draft Rachaad White to drop him in week 3 because he wasn't doing anything yet. Last year, you didn't draft blank to do the same thing. You don't draft those 9th, 10th, 11th round flyers with upside that you know are backup plans or long-term plays. Like initially, Puka Nacua was a long-term play. Jackson Smith-Njigba is a long-term play. You're not dropping him after not being involved much in 1 week. But the one interesting name that I thought, meaning, it was like a lot of people want to draft or drop Charbonnet already. I think they're bananas. Like I haven't. Is easily the most asked player of should I drop in week 2.
That's really surprising, and I'm just taking a look at ESPN now, and yeah, he is. I mean, we can cross off Rodgers and J.K. Dobbins and Jeff Wilson and defenses.
Injuries.
Obviously, Rachaad Penny, I totally get. Charbonnet is, he's the most dropped running back after Rachaad Penny here. I mean, Antonio Gibson's on this list too, and I understand that didn't go well for Gibson, but it's just too early to be doing that. On the flip side, if maybe this data is from people that are playing in 8-team, 10-team leagues, and they have, I don't know, they had J.K. Dobbins, they have Taylor already.
Shallow,
Kamara,
maybe.
like, maybe it's possible, but
you didn't draft Charbonnet to immediately turn around because
I totally
you didn't get
agree.
much work.
I totally agree, and I actually agree with Antonio Gibson. I don't feel like should be dropped either. It wasn't crazy on this guy, but Washington will not be 7-point favorites every single week, and there will be Gibson games, and they're playing from time.
But I did actually have him in Dumpsville, but he was like the 4th option of running backs. Like we're talking after Evan Hull and Deion Jackson and stuff like that. And it's just because of what you said. Like there is some, I would drop him for both Ravens. I would drop him for Kenneth Gainwell, assuming the ribs. So actually, let's talk about this. So a little bit differently. I kind of try and attack every single game. I try to pull out one player, or actually 2 or 3 potentially for every single game. So it's kind of we're going to start with running backs. And we don't normally do this. We'll see what it goes. I have a new format over at the Athletic too for the weekly ranks. Instead of giving you just a bunch of sleepers and then going into the ranks, there's still sleepers that are listed out without explanation because they kind of get buried into. I have a game preview. I have about 3 or 4 bullet points for every single game, some stats, some interesting things, and we're going to talk about some of those today. So anyway, make sure you're following Chris Meaney at Chris Meaney too. Hockey's coming, and you're going to want to make some good bets with Chris Meaney, the king of betting on hockey.
Yeah, we'll see.
Your Eagles running back situation. We're doing this. If you're listening and not watching live, you might have news on Kenneth Gainwell already. It's 2 missed practices, although Monday missed practice. It is a short week, so they do practice, but it's not like the real practice-y. Like, it wasn't much of a concern. At least as of right now, it's 1 major missed practice. It's a ribs issue. So, Meaney, if he plays, do you just trust him as an RB2? If he plays, and then if he doesn't, is it DeAndre Swift or is Rachaad Penny, I always say, I throw that extra R in there, Rachaad Penny going to be the surprise after being healthy and active? And what do you do in both scenarios? Do you play Gainwell? And then if not, who are you turning to?
If I'll start with if not. If not, it will be Penny.
You think it'll be Penny,
and everybody
even with
will
the inactive?
freak out. Yeah, I think the whole thing was we want to have Gainwell as the first and second down back. We don't see a role here for Penny right now. And I don't think that Swift is ever going to, like what Penny had 14 carries.
So sorry to cut you off, but this is
Or
last
Gainwell?
year. Last year when you and I sat here and Miles Sanders got hurt, this is because Boston Scott filled the Miles Sanders role. And we sat here and said, Boston Scott. And everybody went the other way. Everybody went to Gainwell. And we said, no, Boston Scott. So you're doubling down on that, saying, like, this is a role scenario. This is Gainwell is Penny. Swift is still Swift.
Yes, that's how I feel. And Sirianni can throw us a curveball. I mean, we've been trying to play this game with the Eagles' backfield for years, but that's personally how I feel. I think that if Gainwell doesn't suit up, Penny is active, and he is taking – maybe it's a split. Maybe Swift gets more carries, but I would assume that they don't want Swift carrying the rock that much. Like, he hardly touched the field in that first game. When he was on the field, he was lined up wide. There was a couple targets that he had. I believe he may have had a carry when it was like 3rd and long, and they just put him out there. I'm like, oh, wow. Yeah, this is how you're really treating Swift. Maybe they don't – maybe Detroit actually likes Swift a lot more than Philadelphia so far. But I would say if Gainwell is active, I wouldn't trust him as an RB2. He'd be a flex, decent flex. He did touch the ball, I think, 5 or 6 times. The first 5 or 6 plays were all Kenneth Gainwell, couple targets, couple carries. I would have him like in the 30s, maybe low 30s, high 20s. So like not a solid RB2. And I wouldn't be playing Penny, but that's how I feel the backfield will play out if Gainwell is inactive tomorrow night.
But it could end up being a shootout and then Swift. Because
it could end up being a shootout. Yeah, you're right.
Gibson,
it could be.
Gibson not being dropped. I think Gibson and Swift are in the same scenario.
Absolutely.
Like you're talking about no run game and all passing game. But that's why I say Gibson was droppable. It's just like, again, if you needed those the clear options. Again, I even real quick, I want to move on from waivers, but real quick, would you drop Gibson for Kyron Williams? I would.
Yes, I would too.
Okay.
I mean, it's really hard to ignore the volume. You can't go down 0-2. Like, I don't want to panic. Week 1, this is the best time of the year to actually pick up players that
go look at who got dropped.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you were going, you made a good point to bring up Charbonnet. There's other players too, like rookie wide receivers and just guys that I feel like
I dropped
it's just
Sky
week
Moore.
1. It's just week 1. I get it, but it's just week 1. And if I saw Sky Moore anywhere, it's context dependent, of course. But I would pick him up. Yeah. Anyways.
No, I dropped. I'll give you a reference.
This panic.
Just real super flex. I dropped Sky Moore to pick up Zach Wilson. I dropped the heavy bag on Zach. I don't like Zach Wilson, but it's super flex. Like, how many times are your quarterback going to pop up in the middle of the year? Like,
you can't afford to go down 0-2, 0-3 because you're like.
Well, I'm already 0-2 because we have double headers, so I can't afford to go 0-4.
I'm playing 2 leagues like that. I love your flex league for that one. I think I'm 1-1. I just escaped. I think I played Erickson. We had the worst teams of the entire week, maybe, but I escaped with a W. But yeah, it's just. Definitely check your waiver wire. You know, if you're lucky that you went 1-0, and there's probably going to be some panic.
Check the link in your waiver.
Check the link in the waiver wire. Yeah.
Let me ask you this real quick before we move on from this game and we get to the rest of the Sunday games. I mentioned this in the game breakdown, and I was also in waivers too. Jordan Addison, only 55.6% of the snaps and 66% of the routes. He was clearly the third. Though, on the flip side, he was the only Vikings with 2 end zone and red zone targets. So, does the third role behind KJ Osborne worry you? Or is that, hey, week 1, it's a rookie. This is pretty common. I just love to see also that usage and what he did in week 1.
Yeah, it's the latter. I think it's very positive that he had the touchdown.
The Eagles slot.
Last year, this time last year, the Eagles and the Vikings played week 2. It was the Eagles' home opener. I'm surprised that the NFL did this again, Minnesota into Philly week 2 for the home opener. But in that game, Slay really did shut down Jefferson and gave Cousins like fits. I think he had 2 picks, throwing to JJ, Hawkinson, and Addison.
Oh, I have Hawkinson as my number 2 tight end this week, only behind Travis Kelce.
We saw, Hunter Henry was the tight end 1. My goodness, the tight end position. But he did have like roughly 5 grabs and 50 some odd yards. So it's all year you're going to be able to attack the Eagles in the middle of the field. But Addison, good, I think good first game. Don't expect him to be, 90% of the snaps.
So you wouldn't sell high worrying about the snap count?
No, I wouldn't sell high. I think that, he's going to have some explosive plays, busted coverage.
Okay, then let's talk Packers and Falcons. So in the first game, Jordan Love throwing downfield more than people expected him to. He was actually the 6th highest ADOT, the highest or 9th highest in deep throw percentage. Christian Washington could come back, which should even make that go further, but that's not who I want to talk about. I want to talk about Romeo Doubs. Do you believe the usage from Romeo Doubs in week 1 that's going to continue even with Watson back? Or is he, week 1, immediately potential sell high candidate? Like, is he, basically, he's not a sell high candidate, Meaty, if you're going to say he's wide receiver 3 minimum, top 36 wide receiver.
I think that he could be a wide receiver 3, even when Watson comes back. I think the offense will run through both of those guys. I thought A.J. Dillon would get more carries. I thought it would be more of a run-first offense, especially against Chicago. And Jordan Love was really impressive. Man, I think he was maybe 7 for 9 on 3rd down, too. He made some good throws, man. There was one play where the snap was bobbled. He didn't panic. He picked it up, just took his time and threw the ball down the field, I think, to Luke Musgrave. Man, are we doing this again with Watson? This is another soft tissue injury. All last year we played this game with Watson. I would hang on to Doubs. I think both guys could be fine all year long, even when Watson comes back.
How much trust do you have in Tyler Allgeier? Is he an RB3?
I think so.
So
they give him
I already said
goal line carries.
I know. Well, I already said on the waiver show. So here's the interesting thing. This could obviously change if they're playing from behind because they were in control in much of that game. And Allgeier actually more than Bijan Robinson. But Bijan Robinson, all the passing game work, I think that if they are playing from behind or kind of game neutral, you could see it 60-40 to Bijan Robinson. All that being said, the comparison I made, Chris Meaney, was Devonta Freeman and Tevin Coleman. RB1 and fringe RB2. Yeah, I don't think Allgeier will be an RB2 to rely on every single week, but Tevin Coleman for the boom and bust, where some weeks he was an RB1, some weeks he was like RB40. Like, I basically play that roller coaster as an RB3.
Yeah, I know it's just, Bijan's first game, but wow, man, Arthur Smith is going to make a lot of people, he's going to piss a lot of people off this year in fantasy.
Can you start Drake London?
No.
Okay.
I think it's going to be better. The fact that Desmond Ridder had 1 catch and Drake London didn't have a catch is one of the most funniest things I've ever seen in my life. And I understand the ball came back and he just caught it.
It's still hilarious.
I'm looking at the schedule and I'm seeing people say, oh, when they get into a game where it's going to be up tempo and the team's going to push the pace, there'll be more targets for Drake London and Kyle Pitts. Have you guys seen the Falcons schedule? Like, I'll just rattle it off quickly. Packers, Lions, Jags. There's a potential one where they can push the pace. Texans, Commanders, Bucks, Titans, Vikings. There's one potential. Arizona, Saints, maybe. Jets, no. Bucks, Panthers, Colts, Bears, Saints. They play 2 good teams, like 2 solid football teams. I like
pace
the Saints
teams too.
Yeah, this is a team that is just going to run the football all year long. Man.
I joked about it. I said they were coming back from the halftime in the 3rd quarter, and there was still half the 1 p.m. games hadn't even hit halftime yet. There's a lot of halves thrown in there.
Yeah,
I just thought it was interesting because I put Drake London all the way down at 45 for this week, and I still could see put him in lower. Here's the one I'll throw out and kind of jump to this game. We'll come back to it later on. But Allen Robinson, I play Allen Robinson over Drake London. I don't even it's the passing game.
He got volume. Like we're.
And by the way, hold on. Can I mini victory lap? Kenny Pickett did nothing. Kenny Pickett playing against the 3rd-team defense of the preseason meant nothing.
Actually, I'm not gonna shout at anyone. There's a couple people that have worked with us before in the past that were talking about the Steelers winning the Super Bowl after that game against the Falcons when they played the 3rd-string defense. Like, yeah, this slap in the face and reality check for Steelers Nation playing a Super Bowl contending squad in San Fran. Yeah, he struggled. There was 5 minutes left in the 2nd quarter. And the Steelers had 1 net yard and 0 first downs. So, like, my goodness. But I have Drake London. I think I have him lower than. No, I got him at 41. Ratcliffe's got him at 39.
Why do you love London? Why do you love London?
Robinson's going to get targets.
Who's your favorite guy?
Yikes.
Why do you love him?
And I feel for him because he's a really good wide receiver, but he is just not worthy of a start, man. I don't even know if I'd buy low. I just don't see the point. I don't want to have him in my lineup.
So if I'm watching the chat, but I want to make sure we get through all the games. If we got some time at the end, I'll jump into some of the questions. Yeah. But everybody's talking about the finishers that I put top 10 wrestling finishers was the fun ranks this week. Nice. And I say no, Jake the Snake actually predates me a little bit. Like I didn't get into wrestling also until I was like late in my teens. So I was kind of around the I was gonna say like right towards the end of the Attitude Era. I'm trying to think like when it was, but I
couldn't help you. I'm not a big wrestling guy.
No, I know you're not. So, but everybody out there that's asking, like, why didn't you have this? Why didn't you that? Like, I didn't watch like the 80s and 90s, well, early 90s wrestling. Sorry. Let's talk Ravens running backs. We talked on the waiver show. So, first question for you, Meaney, would you go Gus Edwards or Justice Hill if you could pick either? Straight up. You just don't. I don't care about fab. I don't care about waiver price. Just straight up, who would you pick?
I think I would go.
Your audio went out. Whatever you just hit, you just like
what
broke
is
something.
happening?
Oh, there you go. You just like your whole
music.
Meaney's whole system just no. You're only hearing it on your end. You got some video in the back.
YouTube. It's like a YouTube is like golf tips. This guy's like trying to say how do you get rid of that hook? I'm like, wait, what is this guy in the back?
Wait, I want to know.
Let me answer that question.
No, I want to know the answer. Hold on, go back to you.
If you have a strong grip, anyways. I do tend to have a hook. Sometimes slight draw. I overturn my hand. There's the hook. Anyways, I would. Let me answer that question again. Like, I think I would go Justice Hill because of just the super small sample size, of course, but the touches that he did have in the red zone, like a 2-point conversion. I don't know if that was just. This is going to be a complete mess. I don't want to play any of these guys. I think next week we're going to be talking about Melvin Gordon. Like, that's how I feel like this is going to play out. I think it's going to be. I'm really surprised to see people spend almost 40% of their fab on Justice Hill. I think it was a complete trap. I think this is going to be a straight up mess. You have Lamar Jackson there. I would assume that Gus Edwards has the benefit of the doubt to be the goal line back. I know it's a different offensive coordinator, but to me, he's built like a goal line back where Justice Hill could actually maybe give you a few more catches in the receiving game. But even Lamar hasn't shown us that he'll dump off. So I don't feel confident in any of these guys. Give me Gus and hope that he finds the end zone.
That's why I go slightly Gus over Justice Hill, is because I compared Justice Hill to Ezekiel Elliott with Ramondre Stevenson. Also, people didn't notice the snap count was actually still there for Ramondre Stevenson in the red zone, or actually goal to go. I think it was 8-5, even though Zeke got the 2-point conversion. Ramondre Stevenson actually got a goal to go touch. So
yeah.
Anyway, I'm bringing it up to say is like I think Justice Hill might have some passing game, but you just mentioned it. Lamar Jackson. How much is he really going to throw to the running backs at all? I'd be concerned more if that Justice Hill is the goal line back. The carries that you saw in that game is why I don't think Justice Hill is the lead. Like he's not that guy. It was 8 for 8 or something like that. Like,
how are people spending so much fab on this guy? I know it's panic mode, but I would have much rather spend that fab on Kerwin and Gainwell and Kelly. Even stashing Rashawn Johnson or something like that. I think this is going to be a headache. I really do, man. I think that Melvin Gordon is going to come in and get goal line work. I really do. And he's the guy out of the three that could. Now, he's not going to be good, but he is the guy of the three that could actually be a bell cow back of the three guys.
Is there any world where you don't start Joe Burrow in week 2 after what happened in week 1?
It's going to be it might be a headache, man. I don't think this one's going to be good either. It's Baltimore. It's a division game.
Well, then here's one. Hold on. No, I'm setting you up heading into this next game. No, I'm purposely, I had this ready. Would you, there are people out there who have this, maybe even on waiver wire, maybe even drafted because we weren't sure about Joe Burrow in week 1. Just saying. 21.3 points per game at home, 11.5 on the road. Who am I talking about?
Jared Goff.
Would you start Jared Goff or Joe Burrow after what happened in week 1? He's got the Seahawks defense at home.
Man, the Seahawks defense looked so bad. That's a big L so far, I would take. Like, everyone's victory lap, and I thought the Seahawks team would be solid defensively, and the Rams just threw all over them without Cooper Kupp. I think I would go Burrow. I think I would still go Joe Burrow, knowing his upside. Bad game. He typically starts slow. First game from the injury. In Cleveland, Browns have owned Burrow. I would go Joe Burrow. I know I see some Goff stuff here, but I couldn't live with myself if I played Jared Goff and he had 12 points and Joe Burrow had 3 touchdown passes in the first half. Like, I just couldn't. You drafted Joe Burrow in the 5th round. Play this guy.
How quickly are you overreacting to Geno Smith then? Would you play Geno Smith or Jared Goff this week?
I play Goff. I could go. I would go with Goff in that
Geno,
one. I don't want to overreact too much, but yeah, Jared Goff did not look, or Geno did not look good.
Geno did not look. All right.
Was Lockett fine? I don't know. Is he in concussion protocol? I don't know the latest on Tyler Lockett. If he doesn't play, that's not great for the Seattle offense.
Well, and here we have an interesting situation. Dave Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs. We're doing the DeAndre Swift game all over again. DeAndre Swift. Look, I just called him that. Jahmyr Gibbs averaged 6 yards per touch, rushing and receiving, both equitable.
He looked awesome.
David Montgomery did not have a single target. Do you play Jahmyr Gibbs? Actually, Jahmyr Gibbs or Tyler Allgeier in week 2?
I would go with Gibbs. I have Montgomery ranked higher, but just 2 spots higher.
Okay.
I think you play both of them. But am I wrong in thinking that? Would you go Gibbs or Tyler Allgeier? Because Allgeier is going to touch the ball more.
I think that's your answer right there. Safe floor is Allgeier. Yeah. Ceiling is Jahmyr Gibbs. Yeah. So, all right, let's talk Austin Eckler. Joshua Kelly must start, in your opinion, if there is no Austin Eckler.
Yeah.
Okay. That's easy.
This was one thing I will say about that game. I don't know how you feel. All that talk about pushing the ball down the field, and there was really none of that. But Vic Fangio is a pretty good defensive coordinator, and I think he was playing into that. Like, I think he was saying, go ahead, run the ball. You're not going to beat us over the top here today. You want to run the ball with Eckler and run the ball with Kelly. And they did, and they ran it really well. I wonder if Kellen is going to have more of a balance. Are they going to run the rock more in LA? We all thought that they were.
I don't know. Here's interesting.
Walk down the field? I don't know. It's something to keep an eye on.
I will give you from my column that I said, so Justin Herbert last year, 6.4 air yards per attempt. It's only 1 week, but 7.2 in week 1. So it is up, at least in 1 week. Okay. You mentioned that the defense kind of tried to play the game too. Still went up. Interesting for the Titans, pass defense that continues to be utter trash. It was already trashed last year. League high allowed in week 1 to Derek Carr. He can throw it let me go back to last season. I sat here and I said people overreacting to Derek Carr's deep ball. Can't throw a deep ball. Davante Adams is going to suck. He can't throw it. No, he's a middle of the road deep ball thrower. He's not terrible. I said that last year. We actually just saw it again this year. We saw it in week 1 because here's what I'm going to say. The Titans allowed the league high 11.5 air yards per attempt to Derek Carr and 27.3 deep throw percentage. Wow. That's passes going at least 20 yards downfield. Justin Herbert, Mike Williams. Is Mike Williams in play? Oh, yeah. I don't want to play. I'm so tired of this. If Mike Williams ever plays 100% of the snaps, just start going to church and crossing, Jesus is coming.
That's why I've hung on to Quentin Johnson in certain leagues. In your flex league, I was surprised nobody went and got Kendrick Bourne. I was really thinking Kendrick Bourne and drop Quentin Johnson, but Mike Williams already again in that first game, leaving and coming back. And just injury issues dating all the way back to Clemson. I'm just willing to hang on to him in a high-powered offense and be patient for a couple weeks. But this is a copycat league, and everybody has been throwing on the Titans over the past couple years. Last year, Olave was inside the top 5 in air yards, and ADOT is very similar for him in week 1 with Carr. He was inside the top 10 in air yards. Shaheed had a touchdown, a couple dart throws in the end zone to him. So, yeah, the Titans,
number 22.
Quarterbacks are going to throw all over them all year long.
My buddy called me during the game. He's like, who the hell is this 22? I was like, it's Shaheed. It's not even a running back. It's not the person behind Jamal Williams. That's actually a wide receiver. Stupid Shaheed and Sky Moore. Can we stop with this?
I got him in your flex league, Shaheed, but I don't know when I'll ever play him unless Thomas goes down. But
I think as a quick side, that's a good question to ask yourself. I mentioned this on the waiver show. Ask yourself when you're picking them up, even if I get them, even in blank scenario, am I actually going to start them? Because that comes down to, the upside versus potential now. You win Justice Hill. Are you starting him this week? Do you need him? Absolutely go get him. But if you're Justice Hill is my 4th, 5th running back, I'm not even going to start him anyway. If your league is active in trading, I know there's all contacts. I'm just saying. What I was bringing up is saying Justice Hill versus Kyron Williams. Justice Hill being the one is still relative what? It's still going to be Gus Edwards is involved, Melvin Gordon's involved. It's still one. It's always going to be other people. Kyron Williams, if he pushes past Cam Akers and starts getting 70% of the work, has a higher ceiling. So that's kind of the context I think is a really good point of what you just said too when you look at your bench. So at tight end, speaking of ceiling, it's everybody's in play. Stupid ass tight ends. Ban tight end only positions. Please go to wide receiver / tight end. But everybody still plays with tight ends only. Okonkwo week 1 had some flashes, but we had this whole situation. Yeah, I know. Big fat 0. Been pass blocking or the run blocking's an issue. So the passing. Would you play Okonkwo against the Chargers? It's a good matchup.
It is a good matchup. I have him in the late teens. I want to tell people to be patient, especially let
me jump ahead.
Talking him up. Yeah.
Okonkwo or Jake Ferguson, who got a ton of targets, but it could be relative to that 40-0 smashing of Monday Night Football.
It could.
Or Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, I would go with Ferguson. I think the targets are important. The volume's important. Yeah, he did target him early in that game, Dak. I think the first couple of throws were to Ferguson. I want to tell people to be patient about Okonkwo, especially because I was pumping his tires all off season. But how can you do that when it's this tight end position and he doesn't do anything? I do remember last year Cole Kmet put up a 0 in week 1 and a 0 in week 2, and I was like, that's it. After the 0 in week 2, I got to drop him. Then he really turned it on, and he was fine. So it's hard to tell anybody to be patient about a tight end position. Like if Laporta or I'm sure Kincaid is not there, or Luke Musgrave, heck, Hunter Henry. You know what I mean? Like this,
we talked about Hunter Henry.
Be brutal. Juju is not getting on the field. I do believe the reports that he's got a bum knee. Parker has not been able to get on the field for years. Kendrick Bourne doubled his touchdowns from last year in one game. He actually looked really good, and I think he could be probably the
we're
one.
We're gonna get to that. Hold on, just so we'll talk
Hunter
about
Henry,
him.
I would play Hunter Henry over Okonkwo.
Of course.
And
all right.
Ferguson.
Then I still have Khalil Herbert as a fringe RB2. He's in the RB3 conversation if you go purely by ranks, but I'm still starting him, still playing him. I referenced it in the waiver column and in the breakdown that Rashawn Johnson's, the majority of his touches came on 3rd and 4th down and once the Packers were up by 7 plus. So you could call it garbage or whatever you want to call it. Like, that's just where it is. Now, long-term concern, absolutely. Still long-term concern about Rashawn Johnson. But Khalil Herbert, does he start in your lineup as an RB3, or does you think that's even too high given this backfield?
No, I think 3's fine. You're right. He was the lead. He got the goal line touch.
He actually got some passing game work.
He got some catches. Actually, all the backs got some targets.
I know.
Way more than DJ Moore.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That's the only people Justin Fields was throwing to.
Justin Fields didn't throw the ball down the field like 10 yards, maybe 3 attempts out of those 40-some-odd.
Do you want to know what his air yards per attempt were?
Oh, probably like 2.
3.1.
Like, that's pathetic, man. That's a really bad first game for this new offense.
I threw it in here to give you an idea. So Desmond Ridder also, because I referenced it in that game, had a 3.5 air yards per attempt. Desmond Ridder had more than Justin Fields, mind you, 3.5 to 3.1. Both of those, for comparison, last year's lowest regular starter, like one game doesn't count, basically 8 games, half the season. Our starting quarterback last year, the lowest air yards per attempt for the season, is Matt Ryan at 6.0.
Oh my God.
That's how bad Justin Fields and Ridder were in week 1.
Wow. I'm not panicking about DJ Moore, but that's not a first game which you want to see.
You can't start him, but you're definitely not. You're not.
No.
Here, I'll throw one out. Look, I know it's not waivers, but I'll throw it out because I saw these questions after we did the show yesterday. Would you drop DJ Moore to pick up Puka Nacua? That's how far people are willing to go.
Oh, my goodness. I don't think that I would, but you got to find a way to have Puka Nacua. I mean, we talked about this guy all off season. I mean, I didn't think his best game all year may just be week 1, but
it could be.
It's a good first game, and we've talked about him. We don't need a victory lap, but you should find a way to get him on your roster. But DJ Moore, how does this guy get 2 targets?
If he's Kevin Ogletree, I'm going to punch you in the face, Meaney. I'm going to drive all the way up to Canada.
Man, how could you even top that game? You know what I mean? Like, that's a really good
that's
game.
A touchdown?
And Kupp will come back.
He didn't score. Bomb.
He didn't score, but he had 15 targets with Tyreek Hill up at the top. The DJ Moore thing is just mind-boggling, right? 2 targets. They came late in the second. They were awful throws. They were basically at the line of scrimmage, and he found a way to turn out 25 yards. Like, that's what he can do. Get the ball in his hands and let him do some work for you. But Herbert, RB3, Rashawn Johnson, we talked about him, potential league winner. God, that was a good first game. This team, in hindsight, they're going to play from behind all year. Garbage time all year long in Chicago. So,
well, I have DJ Moore all the way down at 29. Apparently that's low for people right now. I think that's fair. And honestly,
fair too.
Let me ask you about the guy right behind him, who I think on my team, I might have to move DJ Moore lower because at Tampa Bay, at Carolina, I think I might actually, if my team, this is how I'm doing my rankings, I think I would start Michael Thomas right behind him.
He's getting targets.
Would you start Michael? Would you start Michael Thomas or DJ Moore?
I would start Michael Thomas against Carolina. Yes. I'm not dropping DJ
Jahan Dotson against the Broncos.
I'll probably go.
This comes down to where does Surtain go? Like Surtain McLaurin? Because that's outside. and Dotson's inside.
Yeah, it's a positive match. What happened to Dotson in the second half, man? I looked
I know,
away.
started
I
off
saw he had
5
a
for 40.
touchdown. I was like running around. He had a touchdown, and then I had over 42 receiving yards. He had 40 at half. I'm like, where's this guy in the second half? What's happening? But
I was like, I was expecting like 5 for 110 and a touchdown, and it was 5 for 40. Like really, like with I got the 5.
Yeah, the first few targets from Derek Carr were to Michael Thomas. Like he was getting some looks. He had a couple of red zone targets, and then in the second half, it really was a lot of Olave and Shaheed. But I probably would go Thomas over DJ Moore, but I would go DJ Moore over Dotson, and I have them
DJ Moore
well,
over every
28 and
Commanders
29.
wide receiver.
Yeah, Terry's in a. I think our boy Hal is going to struggle in Mile High. They might win the game, but they may struggle in Denver.
Also, I think somebody just mentioned in the chat too. Yeah, J.C. Horn is out, which people kind of overlook. It's been one of
he's great.
names that deserve to be in the shutdown corner conversation with Sauce Gardner and Surtain and stuff like that, and people kind of overlook that one because of where he plays. Buccaneers backfield. I'll give you an example. I am so concerned about Rachaad White that I traded him away with Desmond Ridder in my Superflex league with Desmond Ridder to get Alexander Mattison.
Oh, nice.
Because we talked this entire preseason about Alexander Mattison, worrying about Ty Chandler. Is he really going to be the guy? Week 1, the Vikings said Alexander Mattison is a bell cow. They treated him like a bell cow in week 1. Now, could this go sideways? Absolutely. I don't think it's that massive an upgrade, but I don't think I was going to get much for Desmond Ridder, even in the Superflex, averaging 10 points per game, even in the Superflex. You can start. I know you can start wide receivers over him. But that being said, Rachaad White, I have legitimate concerns. Like he is the guy. He is Alexander Mattison. He is getting all the touches. However, continuing into last year, it's looked terrible. He's had all the touches. It's just been very poor performance on all of it. I jokingly said it, meaning yesterday, I'll pull up the Spider-Man thing. I said to Lauren, see if you agree with me. I'm doing the points. Look, I'm pointing. One is Rachaad White. Do you know who he's pointing at? Do you know who's on the other side of the Spider-Man meme? Cam Akers.
I don't know.
Cam Akers.
Yeah. I mean, can't argue it. Volume is king. I have him ranked at 20. Maybe that's too high. But you're not wrong. Efficient, he wasn't. Last year, I think we talked about it in the Sirius show. Out of like 42 qualified backs with X amount of carries, he was like 41st in terms of like broken tackles and yards after contact. He just didn't grade out well. And there's a change in offensive coordinator with Dave Canales. You hope that the run game can be a little bit more efficient, but I still like him. I don't know, man. I'm surprised you got that return. That's great. I would, if I was thin at the running back position, I would maybe
he lost
to buy low. Yeah, true.
The person. That's why.
We'll see.
Rachaad White.
Not a
I'm
great
going to go right into
game.
the next game. Right into the next game. Rachaad White or Isaiah Pacheco, week 2. You have to choose.
I would go with Rachaad White. Yeah,
I have one spot in front of Pacheco.
Yeah, it's really close. For the betting people out there, 11.5 rushing attempts for Rachaad White was his prop week 1. I think he's a guy that's going to get 13 to 14, but got to keep an eye on efficiency.
I was so mad. I had a free $5 bet on one. I forget which site it was, and I'm like, I'm just going to go nuts because it's you give me a free $5 bet, I'm going to go nuts. I did a 12-way parlay,
and you lost.
I only
went 11 for 12.
No, I went 9 for 12. I think that's still pretty damn good. Especially week 1. I was like, man, so close. I would have $5 would have ended up being. I think it ended up being like $9,000 or something like that.
Wow. That's what you got to do on those free bets.
I just think it's a free bet. $5. I'm not going to bet $5 to be like, ooh, I won 20. Yay. No, I'm going all balls out on that one. On the Chiefs side of it, since we're in this game, I asked Nate Taylor. He's in the waiver column. He said, be patient. You even said it. Be patient with Sky Moore. I want to be patient. Please be patient. And Kadarius Toney. We got to see what it looks like with Travis Kelce. That being said, is there a single Chiefs wide receiver you would start in week 2? No. Right?
No. I'm not playing.
Who would be the highest? Marquez Valdez-Scantling?
I mean, sure.
He's the highest for me.
Yeah. I mean,
he's the only one we know that's starting as the 1 and 2.
Yeah. When you get points for snaps in your league. Yeah, absolutely.
Points for snaps.
In the deepest format, I would probably play him. Kadarius is going to bounce back. Mahomes is going to put him in. Mahomes is going to try to make this work with Kadarius.
Bounce back the ball off his chest and down to the ground.
It probably. And Kadarius, man, how petty is this guy? Like going on Instagram and taking shots at the Giants. Like, dude, like, Come
Did
on,
he really?
man. You just yeah, I saw tweets all over that on his Instagram post. He was showing like a picture of Daniel Jones, like upset on the bench, like kind of ha ha ha. But and then I saw the tweets like, oh, Kadarius Toney's hands do work. He was able to go on Instagram.
Oh, that's a great comeback.
It's a great.
I was like,
great
dude,
comeback.
pot,
You just had
kettle,
one of the worst games ever. And you are just turning it around, and I mean that's karma, right? When you are doing that to other people, that I believe in that. That sort of stuff is gonna just come back at you. And Kadarius may I take it back. Kadarius may have a worse game in week 2 than week 1. Who knows? But this guy more application. I just want to see this guy.
I admire the talent on a per touch base. Like, dude, that'd be like
getting
me.
wide open.
What's the comparison for that fantasy? That'd be like me last year being like, or I guess week 1 being like, "Ha ha, you Rachaad White idiots," and then Cam Akers, by the way, like that's at least
Cam Akers like it.
Hey, at least get 20 yards, idiot.
For 23, is that what Cam Akers?
Oh, I meant Kadarius Toney.
You meant Kadarius Toney. Kadarius Toney should have had. I don't know. Anyways, the guy was wide open all game. Maybe he's no good.
So here's potentially no good, just from a standpoint. Can you start Christian Kirk now? 10 fewer snaps and routes than Zay Jones.
I'll tell you what, man. TikTok, the people on TikTok, that's a different vibe. I posted one of our guys.
I have no idea. Like Chris Meaney hanging out with the kids. How do you do, fellow youth?
One of our guys, shout out Tyler Atlas. He's been running our TikTok account, and he randomly took a video. I gave $5, and one of them was Christian Kirk. And I'll tell you what, I never got so much heat about Christian Kirk. Like I thought that Kirk's mom, who took shots at Kyler last year, was gonna come find me. Like, how dare you say my wide receiver had 1,100 yards and a great season would be a bust? But this is what we talked about, man. Like, if he's not on the field, and you're bringing in a guy like Calvin Ridley, who is more talented than Christian Kirk, and Kirk had that type of season, yeah, it's okay. It's a nice piece to have on your squad. I believe in this Jacksonville offense. There'll be highs and lows for Christian Kirk, but I would play Zay Jones over him at this point. Like, he may have a great week 2, but it's going to be like this all year, where Ridley is going to be steady, and I think Jones will be kind of steady, like as a borderline.
So Christian Kirk 3-4 is going to relate to somebody later in the show. So I'm going to mention, I'll go say a little tease within the show. I feel like I inceptioned my own show. Like Puka Nacua now. Let's talk about it. Puka. He gets to face the 49ers for his week 2 showing. The one thing about the 49ers, similar to your Eagles, keeping stuff in front of them and underneath, you can actually do stuff underneath against them. So I'm not that concerned about Puka Nacua because he can work that area too. He plays out like Tutu Atwell. I'm not going crazy and starting Tutu Atwell, but I'm also not that concerned about Nacua. Now, again, I'm not, like, to go back to my ranks, I'm not going so far to say Nacua over here. I'll give you a few examples. You know what? That's what we'll do. We'll do like rapid fire. You tell me Nacua or. How about that? Sure. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Nacua or Chris Godwin, week 1 or week 2?
Godwin.
Okay. Nacua or Tyler Lockett?
If Lockett plays, I'm going to go Lockett.
Okay. Nacua or Mike Williams?
Mike Williams, because we talked about the Titans.
You hesitated. Puka Nacua or Deebo Samuel against the Rams?
I'll go Deebo, but
Nacua or Mike Evans?
Season, people. Mike Evans.
Zay Flowers?
Zay Flowers.
Michael Pittman.
Ooh, good first game, man. I'll go Pittman.
Here's one. Amari Cooper, who came off the field for Marquise Goodwin.
Yeah.
Had fewer snaps than Elijah Moore and Donovan Peoples-Jones. 2-part question there. Nacua versus Cooper, and are you worried about Cooper?
I am worried about Cooper. I'm surprised that I haven't heard anything. Was there some sort of injury, illness? I just didn't hear anything. And that game, it was sloppy weather, but it wasn't like... Jerome Ford got all kinds of touches towards the end of the game, and that was clear garbage time. But Cooper wasn't really out there as much as I thought he would be in the first half of that game. I think, I would go Puka, and maybe I'm wrong. I'm just looking. Everybody has Cooper ranked higher than Puka on our site, but
I'm not
Even
going that
myself,
far.
I have Cooper 2 spots higher as well. But what would you do? I don't know. I think that Puka in a PPR league could churn out the ceiling is clearly higher with Amari Cooper. Even seeing what Puka Nacua just did,
Wait,
it is higher.
Higher?
With Amari
You
Cooper.
think so?
I do
still?
believe it's higher with Cooper. Yeah, I do believe
Okay.
it's just one game. It's higher, but this Puka Nacua kid is legit. Like his route running is awesome. And when Stafford zones in on a guy that early, their first game together, and he was willing to give him 15 targets. Not only that, Stafford's 11 of his first 21 throws were to Puka Nacua.
You want to do we want to do the Spider-Man meme again? Do you know who I compared Nacua to for the draft process? Adam Thielen.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins, Adam Thielen, Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, two sides just pointing at each other.
McVay, hell of a play caller. Puka Nacua, like.
Where did
great
that O'Connell
runner.
guy come from?
Yeah, right. McVay.
This is
It's a good comparison.
copy paste.
Yeah. And guess what? Like, he could be a league winner. Because if Cooper
Nacua?
Kupp, yeah. Because if Cooper
On the
Kupp
flip
got
side,
some sort
for
of
everybody
set-
out there, I feel like we need to mention this too. So on the flip side, don't go so crazy with Nacua. That's why we did this list. Kind of just, we should have done. We can save that for another time. But kind of do this to kind of talk through it. But also understand, like, even if Nacua goes belly up, for 2 weeks, even Nacua, he is Kevin Ogletree. Like, the thing is you take these shots because they could be league winners. Like, you take these chances. Don't be upset. Just like the Charbonnet, don't drop them already. Like, don't overreact. Like, not everybody's going to work out. Not everybody's going to be great. This is why we have waiver columns and say, don't go crazy over Jabroni Jones. I don't even know who I can think of at this point, but like that.
I'd rather him than Tutu or Van, though. Like, come on. Like,
Yes.
Van, what are we doing here with Van Jefferson? And Tutu Atwell had a nice game. He had nice moments last year, but I think there's more consistency maybe in Puka than Tutu.
Like Robert Woods was way down the waiver list. He had the volume, but is that not probably Robert Woods' ceiling, what we just saw?
Yeah.
And that's the situation here. That's why you go for these over the others. Let me go back to this. Zach Moss. Do you even put him in your lineup?
No, absolutely
But
not.
you pick him up
Sure. You got to have a running
just
back.
in case.
Yeah. I'm going to pick up Rachaad Penny. Everybody, Penny, I'm going to pick up Rachaad Penny in case Gainwell misses like 2 or 3 weeks. Like, you just have to have running back depth. It's important to have. It's next man up type of deal. You always talk about this at The Athletic. It's very important. I think it's more important to have that running back depth than the wide receiver depth. We could talk about wide receivers all episode long that could be on your waiver wire that could help you out in a pinch and 3 and 4 flex. But have this RB depth. Yeah, Bourne worthy. Absolutely. Kendrick Bourne. Like, pick him up.
Pick him up! Would you go Dameon Pierce or Rachaad White? Similar concern for Dameon Pierce, but a little bit different. Similar concern that the performance was okay. It was actually better than Rachaad White's performance, but more seeded touches to Devin Singletary. Like I talked about on the waiver show with Lauren. The entire preseason was Dameon Pierce running routes. He's losing weight, getting all of like just doing all this stuff. And then we get to the regular season. It's like, oh yeah, that was fun. He's still only going to get 45, 55%.
That was surprising, but I think just in Baltimore,
You would still take Dameon Pierce over Rachaad White,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's a higher ceiling for him. I think he's a better running back.
Dameon Pierce or Raheem must start.
Who does Miami have again?
It doesn't matter. It's Raheem must start. That's the answer. That's
Right. Start him. Then.
to reference my column this week. It doesn't matter.
Oh, it's New
That's
England. Yeah.
I don't even care. Like I said, it doesn't matter.
It's fine. Start him. He'll find the end zone. He did last week. He'll find the end zone for you.
Can you start Hollywood Brown?
Pebble. Where's the pebble? Is
I
there
will
any
look.
pebbles in my office?
I will say
No.
this: if you are on DraftKings, FanDuel, whatever DFS, if you want to take the Hail Mary play, the Giants have rookie corners playing outside. Adoree Jackson dropped to the
Talk about
slot,
that, man.
the nickel corner. The Giants are going to be a problem, as we just saw, for slot. They are the inverse of the Eagles. They are.
Yeah.
You get worried over the middle of the field and in the slot and then that nickel corner situation because that's where Adoree Jackson is now, which is just insane to think about. And they have 2 rookie corners, Deontay Banks and Trey Flowers on the outside. Like, just that's where you want to attack. So Marquise Brown, I'm just saying, could do something this week.
It was. I know nobody wants Michael Wilson or whatever, but he played 90% of the snaps. I thought that was just
I
encouraging.
want Michael Wilson.
I do too. But like,
Here, call me insane, please do. I dropped Sky Moore before I dropped Michael Wilson.
Okay, all right. If Kyler comes back week 6, Michael Wilson could actually be a thing.
Here's the scenario going through my head. Like, Sky Moore has a good game this week. Can you still trust him in week 3? No, you're still waiting another week just to see.
It's going to be...
and then what happens if week 3 ends up being Rashee Rice? And what happens if he's now rotating similar to Kirk and Zay Jones, where it's like Rashee Rice, Kadarius Toney, and Sky Moore, and just like this. The point being is like, like I find a path to playing Michael Wilson quicker than Sky Moore, even though I don't want to drop Sky Moore, but it's just
I totally get it. I think that's how the Giants offense will play too when they get into a competitive game. It'll be Waller and then everybody else just kind of here and there. I don't believe that there's going to be any Giants or KC wide receiver that you can trust. Of course, the ceiling is higher with Kansas City linked to Mahomes.
By the way, this is concerning as well. You have to start Saquon Barkley. But go back to the 49ers game. In this week, specifically, I would start Brock Purdy over Daniel Jones. Because
our guy.
It has nothing. They're facing the Cardinals. This is a great bounce back opportunity for Daniel Jones. However, what kind of got overlooked, their franchise left tackle, Andrew Thomas, hurt, out for some time. At least it sounds like 1 week. That's after, and I know they're facing the Cowboys defense, 66.7% of his dropbacks he was pressured on. That is insane. That is effing bananas. Justin Fields, by the way, was second at 54.2, which is still an insane number. That is also bananas, just to give you an idea of how bad it was for Daniel Jones. No Andrew Thomas. It's the Cardinals defense, but oh, there's DFS, by the way. DFS, you want the sleeper? I'm playing Arizona Cardinals defense in a few DraftKings lines just for the hell. Like, if I'm playing a millionaire type lineup, Arizona Cardinals defense.
I actually played them in one lineup as in a millionaire because they were like 2-3 and they got 10 fantasy points.
It could go really so bad.
Yeah. I mean, that would be fine. Yeah, DJ, man, I felt bad for him. He's out there in the piss pouring rain, down 40 points, offensive line. You see the video of the security guard? Like, you ever see that video? He's just like, one tap, here you go. One tap, here you go. Like, that was the offensive line. It's like, just go ahead. Just run past me. I'm not going to be able to block you anyways. It's me tough. You start Saquon and you hope that he racks up a couple catches, and it is Arizona. He finds the end zone. But people taking shots here, like $40 million a year quarterback. The Cowboys,
I'll take shots.
They're legit.
I'll take shots.
They're legit.
100%.
I know.
Saquon Barkley had almost half the yards in that game, but you wanted to pay the $40 million quarterback and not Saquon Barkley. Oh, trust me. You want to get me started? We don't have time. We're not doing this. Straight up, I would trade for Brock Purdy. You know why? The contract on top of it. Like, equitable, I still say, like, there's I still have hope for Daniel Jones.
We can do this again with Brock Purdy. Like, Brock Purdy, we talked about it in New York. Why does everyone hate Brock Purdy?
Because I will say this, the talent makes up for the throws. Like, he still has some ugly throws.
Absolutely agree.
You switch positions, Daniel Jones is probably top 7-8 quarterback because of the talent.
Because of the talent, and it's mostly the talent and Kyle Shanahan. Like, he doesn't have to do a whole lot. We've seen 7 regular season games from Brock Purdy. He hasn't lost. He's thrown 2 passing touchdowns in every game. He's averaged 18 fantasy points.
All the dudes in the bars and friends of yours that are like, I could complete an NFL pass. Give me blah, blah, blah. No, like, legitimately, you give me the 49ers offense, 50 attempts, I think I could complete one.
Well, that's because they're all it's yak monsters. Just it can be a little shovel to CMC or.
Oh no! I also mean like you have to throw at least 5 yards downfield. You can't throw like behind the line of scrimmage. That's why I said 50 attempts.
50 attempts. Fair enough.
50, because one of them would make up for it.
The fact that he went into Pittsburgh and everybody and the Steelers defense is good, and he went in there off a significant elbow injury and still like had top 10 quarterback. Like, he still was fine.
Yeah,
there's gonna be some big moments for him because the schedule is super soft, and Shanahan's gonna put him in to a spot to succeed.
All right, so a couple of rapid fires that we have. Breece Hall must start after what we saw in week 1. Question mark. I mean, he does have Zach Wilson at quarterback now. He still snapped fewer than Dalvin Cook, but wow, did he look good.
He looked awesome. How about Eli Manning saying he was out of shape on that run, that burst that he had? Like, dude's coming off a significant injury. He's not out of shape.
To be fair, 100%. To be fair, 100% Breece Hall does not get run down.
No, absolutely not. I was at MetLife last year when he had a 77-yard touchdown to the house, and I was like, man, that guy is explosive. And Garrett Wilson's doing this while Breece Hall is running instead of blocking. He's celebrating. Like, yeah. But I don't know if he's a must start. Loved the first game. You mentioned fewer touches than Cook. Looked fresh. It's only going to just continue to get better, I think, from a snap count and a touch, count for Breece Hall. So
all right, then here we go. I want to come back to Breece Hall. We're going to finish this show on Breece Hall. The name that I was suggesting earlier when I was talking about Christian Kirk was Juju Smith-Schuster. Juju Smith-Schuster. So what I'll say is, well, no, he is droppable. Honestly, he was behind Kayshon Boutte, who, and that's Boutte is his legit last name, who was a question mark to make the roster at one point in the preseason. That's how far down the list he is. He was equitable with Demario Douglas, a 6th-round rookie. What I'm saying is Christian Kirk and Juju Smith-Schuster, even if you're selling low, if you can get some value right now, I would before you drop him. Like somebody will still recognize the name. Kendrick Bourne, the people are like, why don't you have him higher on waiver wire? It's because Devontae Parker's going to come back. It's just that's the frustrating part of it. Do I like Kendrick Bourne? Sure. But I think if you look at the opportunities here, it'll be fun for a few weeks, but it's still going to be inconsistent.
It probably will be, but if you're asking me Bourne versus Parker or Bourne versus Juju, it would be Bourne. Well, we said Ramondre is going to lead this team in catches. Ramondre is going to lead the team in catches, and Hunter Henry is going to be
Bourne
the guy
this week.
Inside the red zone.
Kendrick Bourne and Michael Thomas.
I would go Kendrick Bourne. I know that's crazy, but I really did see a lot of good things from him in that game, and he's healthy at the moment. Juju is not, man. He had a bad drop. He didn't play. I think he played like 50% of the snaps. I believe the reports of The Athletic about his knee injury. I think Kendrick Bourne is pick him up. I see a lot of Doubs and Bourne questions. Like, just have these guys in your roster. If you don't want to start him, wait another week or so, but have them.
I would start Doubs and Bourne over every single Panthers wide receiver. Would you do the same?
100%. Oh yeah, absolutely, for sure.
They need DJ Chark just so somebody can get open. Holy
How
crap!
are the Saints only 3-point favorites against Carolina? I don't know. Is that a trap?
I know, and I'm also not worried about Jamal Williams. It was an underwhelming performance, but he had 20 of 21 touches for the backfield. 20 of 21. Like
he was chalk in DFS last week. He'll bounce back this week.
So one more before we get to that. What I wanted to say is save Breece Hall for it as we get out of here because we're over time. But hey, we're not Canada anymore, so we don't have to hold the 48 minutes. Blame you, Canada. It's all your fault. No, we still love Canada, 100%. Najee Harris, how far are you going? Because it's the offense that he still led the backfield. Like Jaylen Warren, the touches were there for him as well, but like it was still his job snap count wise. The offense, Kenny Pickett killed him. The Steelers get Cleveland at home, get after the backfield. That pass rush and like that blocking for the Steelers looks to be a little bit concerned. Mm-hmm. Would you start Najee Harris or Jamal Williams?
Let's start Jamal Williams. I got Harris at 19.
19? Why do you love him? I have Najee Harris at 27.
That's probably.
Dude, here.
Wow.
No. You ready? I'm gonna go right in front of him. You tell me who you wouldn't. Like, tell me if you're like, no, Najee Harris. Najee Harris, James Conner.
I
guess. Najee Harris, Jamal Williams, we just said. Najee Harris, Miles Sanders.
Yeah, Sanders. Ooh, baby.
Najee Harris, Pacheco. Rachaad White.
Yeah, Rachaad White.
Damian Pierce, Breece Hall, Raheem Mostert, Madison, Cook, James Cook, Jahmyr Gibbs.
Cook probably bounce back Raiders. Gibbs, I guess I'm too high on Najee Harris, but I want to overreact because it was San Fran.
No, but it was San Fran. The offensive line is facing the Browns. No, of course.
Another tough spot.
I'm just saying, like, I would start these guys. Can Najee Harris still finish top 15? Sure. But Jaylen Warren's usage, the offensive line, who they're facing again this week. All right, so let's circle back. This is what I want to do as we get out of here. Rapid fire the other way. I wanted to do wrestling, so we had to. We need to make a list. Let's do it. Breece Hall's turn as we get out of here. Breece Hall versus, let's go way up of the list and start with Jahmyr Gibbs. Breece Hall or Jahmyr Gibbs?
Gibbs.
Okay, Breece Hall or James Cook, as you just mentioned before, in a bounce back potential.
James Cook.
Madison. Okay, Mostert.
I'm worried about this Dallas matchup. I will say that.
For Breece Hall?
Like, are you kidding me? Like, Dallas is going to destroy Zach Wilson.
Their offensive line should be better than the Giants was.
Yes, but man, this defense is.
I am so here for Zach Wilson outperforming Daniel Jones.
I'm rooting for
And I
this,
don't
man.
I'm on the, you know this. I never, ever liked Zach Wilson. Like, I just,
No.
not even, like, but I watch it.
Not
I
many
just want to
reasons.
laugh. I just want to enjoy. Such a miserable first week. I went 0-4 in my home league, or 0-4, 0-2 in my home league. The Giants, 40-0. Like, at least Notre Dame.
It was a weird week. It was a weird week. It's always.
I might actually drive down to Duke to go see Notre Dame play. That might be interesting. Although they only have bleachers. I have to bring my own damn foldable seat. Like, what are we still doing with
Really?
have you never seen Duke? Duke still plays around a track. Their
Yeah.
football stadium's still around a track.
That's odd. Like, figure
You
it out,
have a
dude.
top 25. You're one of the biggest schools.
Schools.
Sports-wise in all of America, and your program,
In
your
the
football
entire
program has been decent and relevant for the past couple,
Yeah.
10 at least
Didn't they
years,
pull
and
off
now
a big
you're actually
W
top
too, right?
25.
They,
Yeah.
they beat Clemson week 1, right? Like,
Yeah,
pretty
what
big
the
deal.
hell? Fix your damn. Get a good. ODU has a better football field than you do. What is your problem, Duke?
Yeah,
Anyway,
there's
sorry.
no view of that. Yeah.
Breece Hall or Damian Pierce?
Damian Pierce.
Breece Hall or Rachaad White?
I'll go Rachaad White in the volume.
Pacheco?
Pacheco. I think I'm a little low here on Breece.
Gainwell if he
Breece, like,
plays.
27.
Miles Sanders?
Yeah, Miles.
Jamal Williams?
Yeah, Jamal Williams.
James Conner?
I would play Breece.
Okay.
Conner, man.
Najee Harris? Did I get you to move Najee Harris down far enough?
Yeah, you did actually. I'm gonna have to adjust on Najee. A lot of these guys that we've talked about, I like him a little bit more. You're right. I mean, he has the upside to be an RB1. I don't want to overreact too much on week 1, but this is also a very tough spot. Cleveland's defense is also maybe not legit like these other defenses we've talked about, but they're pretty good. I'd say they're top 10. They look improved. It's just 1 week, but they do look like an improved defense. They can get after the quarterback.
You know what the best part about double dipping on the Duke hate is? That's where Daniel Jones came from. Follow Chris Meaney at Chris Meaney. Make sure you check out hockey coming up with him. Check out the link is out. The ranks are up. You want to talk wrestling? Top 10 finishers are there. Submissions are not included. Sorry, just like submissions are a whole other bag for me, in my opinion. But please rate, review, 5 stars, all that good stuff. Subscribe so we can get our listenership back. And we love you guys for listening and watching and everything. And I'm going to continue going as Fox is the greatest ever. I'm going to just wait for him to cut me off. I'm not going to stop talking. Daniel Jones stinks. Go Zach Wilson.